Morning, everyone. I hope we're not too zoomed out by now. It seems to be at least two, three options a week now, of which we are guilty. I do apologise. So my name's Richard. I work for the membership team at Edinburgh Chamber. So thanks for joining us this morning. I'm not going to keep you too long or steal any of Heidi's thunder. This is her show. So Heidi has her own business, MEERKATworks, who are a media agency. And they are members of Edinburgh Chamber of Commerce, so, which we are very grateful for. And this session today is all about the power of sound. So I think without any further ado, I will pass on to Heidi to give you an agenda and a breakdown of what we're about to experience. So thanks for joining us. I'll speak to you later on.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you. Yes, I'm Heidi and I'm the founder of MEERKATworks. Just before I go into the presentation and share the screen, I just wanted to introduce you to Sam. She's on my top right, but I don't know where she is on your screen. But Sam and I have worked together for 6 years, and she's the account director in MEERKAT. And then there's Dan. Dan's our creative genius who writes and produces all of our commercials, a lot of which you're going to hear today. He's on my middle screen. Again, I don't know where you can see
I look tiny. There's something wrong. I think I'm too far away from the screen.
The one thing I would stress about what I'm going to present to you today is that I would ordinarily do this in a room with a Bluetooth speaker, so I would feel very much in control of the sound that you're hearing. I don't have that control today, so I'll have to rely on you yourselves controlling your own sound and putting your hand up if you can't hear something. So I'm going to share the screen. I don't mind participation, so if at any point you want to ask a question, I really don't mind you putting your hand up and asking me the question, and I can answer it during the presentation. Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to really take the opportunity to just give you a quick snapshot of MEERKAT. I set it up in my bedroom nearly 15 years ago. Prior to setting the agency up, I was actually in sales. So I worked at the FT selling print, and I also worked in radio. So I worked down in Soho in EMA, and I sold radios. So my primary role was to sell Kiss and Magic, and I also sold the portfolio. So stations like Forth and Clyde I became very familiar with because it was part of the portfolio that I sold. What I'm going to show you now is a video. It's only a minute long. The script has been written by MEERKAT. The music is MEERKAT's music, because we believe very strongly about audible branding. And it's been animated by an intern who came in to work with us. So you might need to correct your sound on this. This will give you a sense of how good the sound is for you. So take a listen to this.
MEERKATworks are an industrious mob of experts, and MEERKATs work together to help each other out. That's what makes MEERKATworks work. We understand how important it is to build a strong relationship between your brand and the consumer. So we apply our knowledge of media planning and a mindfully creative approach to ensure that we always plan with this end goal in mind. MEERKATs like to remain free in the wild. That's why our independent agency status suits us. No contractual ties to suppliers means that our clients are always our priority. We tailor every campaign we deliver to meet your needs. And because we're an independent, our client portfolio is as diverse as we are. Small to large companies with local and national campaigns get the same time and dedication. MEERKATworks is a mini powerhouse of data, research and industry knowledge, and we can help you create a bespoke marketing plan with a strategy that not only suits your budget, but importantly, delivers results. Make your marketing work smarter. Come join our MEERKAT mob and find how MEERKATworks works for you.
So could you all hear that okay? I can't see you all, but it was all okay, yeah? So that's a piece of music that we actually got written and produced for us 5 years ago that we have on our hold music, and we use it across all of our marketing. Because something, as I said, we feel very, very strongly about at MEERKAT is the audible side of our branding as much as our visual branding. And I'm sure you've all had your own experience of listening to hellishly annoying hold music as you're waiting for someone to talk to you. And I think from my perspective, businesses need to think much more about what can they do to invest in the audible side of their business as opposed to just the visual. So I'm going to take you through a journey now, which is very much to do with the radio and how we all listen to our own personal choice of music. I don't know how much any of you know about radio, but it was actually invented back in 1895 by an Italian. And this picture that you see here is probably very familiar to you all. It's the family in the 20s all sitting around the radio together, because there would probably have only been one radio in the house. By the decade that I was born in the 70s, the cassette player had started to become integrated into the radio, which obviously offered us as humans the chance to not only listen to the radio, but to start to listen to our own choice of music as well. This is a station, a radio that you're going to be very familiar with. It's analog. You can put it in a pocket and carry it around with you. And in the late 70s, the Walkman came into our lives, followed fairly closely by the CD player that you could carry around with you. And then DAB, so digital audio broadcasting, that came out in the 90s too. And I don't know how many of you had an MP3 player, but this was something that came out 1997. I remember first seeing my friend on Cold Harbour Lane in Brixton show me this tiny little thing. And he said he had all of his music on it. And it just seemed completely inconceivable to me that he had all of his music on this tiny little thing. But that was followed closely by the Bluetooth speaker and then the iPod. So the iPod was relatively late on the scene in terms of being able to carry music around with you. And then in 2006, and this is a significant moment in time, this is when Spotify was born. And this was the first time in the UK that you started to be able to monetize streamed music. Up until that point, no advertiser would have been able to advertise to anyone apart from if they were listening to a radio station. So if I just ask you all now, this is a piece of audio. Again, I would ordinarily play this in a room. And I would ask you all to close your eyes. It's not a test. It's just a case of you going on your own personal journey with this audio and coming out the other side.
This planet This cloudy planet is the Earth. It is our home. Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days. The weekend comes.
Air and naval forces of the United States launched a series of strikes against terrorist facilities.
Pan Am Flight 103 crashed into the town of
He
Lockerbie.
has sanctioned acts of terror in Africa, Europe, the Middle
This
East.
will not stand, this aggression against them.
So you can all open your eyes now. It's finished. Unfortunately, I can't see you all, so I can't sense or see your reactions that you've had to that. But if I was in a room with you all and you had all shut your eyes, I would have been more than likely to be able to tell you which of you have children of a certain age, where you were when you possibly remember the football team winning during the Champions League. And for me, it's a fascinating insight into how sound and music and themes and pieces of audio that we remember that take us back to a time. That's the power of sound. It's very much about theatre of mind, and our theatre of mind is our imagination, and it's our imagination that people are tapping into when they advertise to you through the radio. So just to give a bit of background to the radio, again, I don't know your listening habits, but I'd guess that you listen to either analog or DAB radio. And the difference between these two radios is that one goes through a fixed frequency and it comes out of the mast that you'll see all around the country. And the other one will come out the same mast, but it's digital audio broadcasting. So it's binary. That's the essential difference. And that's why it's so much easier to tune into a digital radio station than it is to often fiddle around with your dial and actually find the fixed frequency which Radio 4 is coming from. In terms of the metrics, it's a radar diary that all of the industry figures are giving us that we as media buyers are using. So what you see in front of you here in the middle is literally a diary. It's a paper diary. People have to fill it out with a pen. And every week, a group of people are given a diary across the UK to fill it out. And there's roughly 100,000 diaries that are filled out over the course of a year. And then we get quarterly results. So just to play you a couple of different adverts here that we've written and produced over the years on analog and DAB. I'm going to play you Star Wars first. This is a pitch that Dan and I won way back in the noughties. And we won this pitch off the back of the fact that we went in and we pitched just sound. And the reason we did the pitch on sound mainly was down to the fact that as a non-Star Wars fanatic, I'd never seen Star Wars. But when I read the brief, what I recognised was that I knew the sounds of Star Wars. So that was the basis upon which we built our pitch. So if I play you this.
It began 30 years ago in a galaxy far, far away.
And this July, you're invited to the biggest birthday celebrations this side of Tatooine.
Star Wars Celebration Europe.
You can relive your favorite Star Wars moments, including life-size vehicles, actors and crew from all 6 movies. You can even meet Jabba the Hutt. Oh dear.
A Jedi training school there will be. Test your lightsaber skills. You will. Star Wars Celebration Europe, July 13th, 14th and 15th at Excel, London. Visit celebrationeurope.com or call 0870 060 0245. The force is strong with this one.
So what you're hearing there is licensed sound effects that we were given access to. And John Culshaw, the beauty of a voiceover like John Culshaw, is all of those different characters plus many more, because I think we wrote and produced 10 commercials. He impersonated all of the different characters. It was quite an extraordinary production session. And to this day, I remember him breathing into a Brabantia bin to impersonate Darth Vader. That then became part of the radio advertising.
It's the only way to do Vader.
Here's another one. This is for Universal Studios Orlando. This is a good example of how when we buy analog and DAB campaigns, sometimes we buy in just one transmission area, other times we buy in different areas. So this ran out across London South East, North West and Scotland. So I'm going to play the one that ran out in Scotland.
When you stay at Universal Orlando Resort, Florida, your holiday comes with more. More dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. More mischief with the Minions. More saving the day with Spider-Man. More raging with the Incredible Hulk. And more thrills in the wizarding world of Harry Potter. With an all-new roller coaster opening 13 June. It's not too late to book your 2019 Florida holiday to Universal Orlando with Thomas Cook. Fly from Glasgow from only £799 per person, departing September 2019. Search Thomas Cook Universal or visit your local store today. Limited availability, conditions apply, all protected.
So again, using effects that are licensed, we had to get access to those, the voiceover, but you can hear for yourself the power of that sound. I don't know whether any of you have been to Universal, but it's the power of sound. It's the theatre of imagination. It's each and every one of you in your own heads imagining Universal Orlando there. So there's some examples. I can give you many more, but obviously we're quite restricted with time. But if we just go on now to data-driven audio campaigns, in terms of what digital audio actually is, I'd imagine all of you listen to digital audio, because I'd imagine that all of you at some point are listening through a mobile device. And if you are listening to audio through a mobile device, we're going to be able to target you through getting your data and allowing our clients to actually advertise to you personally. So these are just 3 examples of an iPad, a mobile speaker and a mobile phone. In terms of the consumption of digital audio, it's a combination of live radio, catch-up, podcasts and streaming. So my own personal digital audio habits are very much about catch-up. I like to listen to Desert Island Discs on catch-up. I love streaming, so I use SoundCloud a lot, and I listen to live radio throughout the day. I don't really do much podcasting. And these are areas that we've been working in for some time now. I'm going to play you a Silverstone advert that we've been doing. So just prior to lockdown, Sam had booked a whole digital audio campaign for Silverstone Experience that we then had to literally cancel due to them being locked down and closed. But we're just in the process of replanning that now. And I'll just play you what we've written and produced for them.
It's lights out and away we go.
The Silverstone Experience is a brand new indoor family attraction featuring thrilling stories from the past, present and future of British motor racing.
There are loads of hands-on displays. You can design your own car or bike in the tech lab. You can even commentate on a race.
The Silverstone Experience is now open, so book tickets today at silverstone-experience.co.uk.
The Silverstone Experience is just brilliant.
So again, power of sound there. For me, I am not a motorsport fanatic. We've done a lot of work with Silverstone and F1. We're now working with the Silverstone Experience. But for me, the moment that I heard that advert that Dan and Sam worked on, it took me back to the mid-90s when I lived in Brixton with 2 guys who were absolute motorsport fanatics. I was there. I was in the front room. I was in front of the TV with the curtain shut. It's hot. And that's the power of sound for me. It's taken me back to a moment in time. And in terms of the metrics behind how we buy this, it's very much about first, second and third party data, which, as Sam and I have discovered, it's a minefield data. We're not GDPR experts, but what we have learned is that there is a big difference between buying first party data and third party data. And a little bit like with the Radar Diaries, you have to apply common sense to when you're buying. So the 2 powerhouses in digital audio are Global and Bauer. Bauer are trading with a lot more first-party data, and Global trading with a lot more third-party data. So the numbers are much higher from Global and much lower from Bauer, but you have to try and balance it and use logic when you're actually planning campaigns. If you just look here, this is an Absolute app. Now, between 2006, when Spotify came out, there was a whole 9 years before commercial radio here in the UK started to monetize streamed audio. And it was Absolute that came out first. So they launched an Absolute radio app in 2011. And you had to give your details to start to listen to Absolute through the radio. And it's been a great success. But with that came lots of other apps. So you can see here, there's a multitude of radio apps. And I'll just show you the journey through. If you were to put the Radio Stations UK one onto your phone, you can see the sequence of events that happen in terms of what you're being asked for. So your location, and then you're asked if you'd like to see ads that are less relevant or continue to see relevant ads. And obviously, we all know that if you listen to commercial radio, you're going to listen to ads. So they've become much cleverer, the media owners, at being able to talk to you in a way that they basically say, give us your data and we'll serve you better adverts that are more suited to you. And this is just some examples here of the brands that you can tap into and advertise on if you go through the digital audio route. Lots to choose from. And as I say, more and more people, especially now during lockdown, have learned how to listen to digital audio. So in terms of data-driven and dynamic audio, I'm going to show you a video now that explains how we actually write and produce and build dynamic audio campaigns. So this can be done in one session, and we can produce a multitude of different adverts that go to different people off the back of one campaign. So at the ready.
Meerkat can write and produce dynamic creative that plays out different sections of the advert, triggered by your audience segmentation and campaign messaging. A digital audio campaign offers the opportunity to maximize your budget by targeting audience segments. This could be gender, location, affluence, or contextual events, for example, the temperature, and it offers the opportunity for many different combinations. This means that multiple campaigns can play out over the same period with different campaign messaging and calls to action. So, this is an example campaign. You can see it's linear, it runs from left to right as it plays from start to finish. Up here is the first part of the ad, that in this example is always the same. Moving down, the next 3 recorded phrases have 3 variations, each of which matches the time. As you can see, all these blocks are uniform in size and shape as they go down the screen. These 3 phrases left to right, sections 2, 3 and 4, introduce the different campaigns and the impact they have. Finally, a generic block to end the ad, tying together the audio branding with your core brand motto. The music can run all the way throughout the ad. Then again, it doesn't have to, with different sound effects playing out in the same way that the creative messaging can. Here's an example of the lottery version.
At Chestnut Tree House Children's Hospice, we let the kids be kids and make every moment extraordinary. And we're able to do this thanks to you. When you play the Chestnut Tree House Lottery from just £1 a week, you're changing local children's lives week after week. And you get the chance to win £1,000 every single week. Chestnut Tree House is the Children's Hospice for Sussex. And it's your donations, your generosity and your support that enable us to provide the very best care, and your support is more important than ever. Join today at chestnutlottery.org.uk. Players must be 16 or over. Be gamble aware. Chestnut Tree House Children's Hospice. Together, we can help them live life for now.
To find out more about how the data you hold on your target audience could make even more finely tuned and targeted ads possible, visit meerkatworks.co.uk.
So that's dynamic audio advertising, and I'm going to play you 2 different examples now, because we've worked with Universal for the last 2 or 3 years now, and it's evolved from something that started out as analog and DAB into something that's become dynamic. So they give us their data, and in the instance of this campaign, they wanted to target 2 different audiences. adults with no children who wanted to go away for an adventure, roller coasters, thrills, and then adults with children. So it went across the whole of the UK, and I will play you two different examples, and you'll work out which one is, I guess.
Ready for the holiday of a lifetime? Does your Wednesday evening need some more adventure? At Universal Orlando Resort, your holiday delivers just that. More tropical chills at Universal's Volcano Bay. More dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. And more thrills in the wizarding world of Harry Potter. With an epic new roller coaster now open. So forget about the cold. Book your 2020 Universal Orlando Resort holiday with British Airways. Find out more at travelrepublic.co.uk/universal or visit your nearest store in Plymouth. Select dates, limited availability, height restrictions and conditions apply. At all protected. Ready to unleash your inner child? Does your Friday morning need some more adventure? At Universal Orlando Resort, your holiday delivers just that. More family time at Universal's Volcano Bay. More mischief with the Minions. And more thrills in the wizarding world of Harry Potter. With an epic new roller coaster now open. So leave the rain behind. Book your Universal Orlando Resort holiday with British Airways from only $6.99 per person. Visit ba.com/universal today or visit your nearest store in Falkirk. Price based on 8 sharing. Select dates, limited availability, height restrictions and conditions apply. At all protected.
So what you've heard there is two adverts, a large part of which is the same, but other parts that are very different. And there's two partners, there's British Airways, there's Travel Republic, there's Universal. So to give you a working example of how we would work that into something like Visit Scotland as a campaign, I would imagine Visit Scotland would have an umbrella, and then if they wanted to talk to two different audiences of people in different parts of this country, say the Northwest and the Northeast, and they wanted to bring in different regions of Scotland to work with them in partnership, you can start to get a sense of how, with those different building blocks, you can start to build different messaging to different people in different parts of the country to encourage them to come to Scotland. And that's the exciting thing from a creative perspective, what you can do with dynamic audio. You can talk differently to the person on your left in your block to how you talk to the person to your right, depending upon other media. You can literally drill right down to a postcode. So we are able to actually buy campaigns that are by postcode where we can do programmatic digital advertising. We can then overlay it with out of home like this. So we can get you on a certain street, and then we can get you onto the TV as well with the radio. So unlike in the olden days when you might have had to have done a regional ITV campaign across the whole of Scotland, we can now adopt a multi-layered approach. So in this instance, what you see here is a Meerkat advert that we were running back in May, just by Murrayfield. And we've now got a TV campaign running that is across the whole area that the out of home ran. So what you see in front of you here is a brand building exercise. Adverts like this, lovely big sexy billboards like this, they are there to build a brand. They don't create a direct response. You're very fortunate if you get a direct response off a big sexy billboard like that. They're there to build your brand. But a campaign like what we're running now, which I'll play you on the TV, if you run that alongside out of home with radio, you then start to have the basis of a very, very high impact campaign. So I'll play this now.
We're an industrious mall here at MEERKATworks, and we've found a great way of grabbing your attention. Yes, you, the decision maker watching this ad. It's called Ad Smart from Sky, and it helps local businesses like us connect with a relevant audience like you. Ad Smart is a reactive and focused TV solution which will enable you to talk to the right people at the right time in the right place, and Meerkat can help you do it. So make your media more Meerkat with MEERKATworks.
So that's the end of the... Nice ending, Dan.
That's great. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks to Dan, Heidi and Sam from MEERKATworks for keeping us informed this morning. Lots more happening at the Chamber as always. We've got our tea breaks on Friday mornings, and I think we're approaching 2 to 3 different events a week now, so our schedule's back up and running. So hopefully it won't be too long till we see you again in person. But until then, have a good day, have a good weekend when it comes, and wash your hands. See you later on, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.